"Uncle, can you take me where my mom used to take me?" The biker had seen many things on the road: accidents, fights, storms, broken hearts, even miracles, but nothing prepared him for the sight of a little girl standing alone at the edge of the highway, clutching a tiny pink backpack, her eyes swollen from crying and her voice trembling with fear. The roar of his motorbike slowed as he approached her, something inside him tightening when she lifted her head and whispered the words that pierced straight through his chest. "Uncle, can you take me where my mom used to take me?" Backhand index pointing right. If you believe kindness still exists in this world and that second chances can save a life, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps stories like this reach more hearts. He parked his heavy Harley beside her and looked around. There were no adults, no cars waiting, no sign that anyone had been with her. Just a lonely stretch of fading evening light and a frightened child trying her best not to fall apart. She told him her name was Hania, and that her mother used to bring her to a special place every Sunday. But today, her mother didn't come home. A neighbor said she had gone to work and never returned. When the little girl realized no one was taking her anywhere, she walked out on her own, hoping someone would help her reach that special place, hoping, in her innocent heart, that maybe her mother would be there waiting. The biker, named Zion, was a man with a reputation. People feared him because of his leather jacket, the tattoos on his arms, and the fierce engine of the machine he rode. But no one knew that beneath the rough exterior lived a man who carried guilt for a daughter he had once failed, for a family he had walked away from, and for years wasted trying to outrun memories he could never escape. And now, standing in front of this trembling little girl, something inside him broke open in a way he hadn't felt in years. He knelt down, gently brushed the dust off her sleeve, and promised he would take her wherever she needed to go. As they rode through the dimming evening, her tiny hands wrapped tightly around his waist, he felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest, something he thought he had lost forever. She softly told him her mother always took her to a hill overlooking the river. They would sit there for hours, sometimes talking, sometimes saying nothing. It was their magic place, she said, the only place where her mother's worries disappeared, and she smiled like everything would be okay. Zion listened, fighting the sting in his own eyes. Every word she spoke reminded him of his past, of the daughter he hadn't been there for, of the moments he could never get back, of the nights he wished he could hold her but didn't know how to swallow his pride and return home. Hania's innocence dug into the wounds he tried to bury beneath the noise of engines and the distance of roads. When they reached the hill, the sky had turned into a canvas of violets and oranges. The place was peaceful, quiet, almost sacred. Hania stepped off the bike slowly, as if scared to disturb the air, and held his hand without asking. Together they walked to the large rock at the edge, the one her mother always sat on. She sat down and stared at the horizon, her small shoulders trembling again. She whispered that every time her mother felt sad, she brought her here and said the wind carried their secrets, and the river washed away everything that hurt. Zion stood behind her, hands clenched, feeling powerless yet protective in a way he hadn't felt in a very long time. The silence wrapped around them until finally, the little girl asked him something that shattered the last piece of wall around his heart. She asked if he thought her mother would come back. She said she believed good people always came back home because that's what her mother used to say. The biker swallowed hard, unable to speak. He didn't want to lie to her, but he also couldn't break her fragile hope. He sat beside her and let the wind fill the silence. He remembered his daughter, how she used to look at him with the same hopeful eyes, how he had walked away from her and her mother because of the anger and mistakes he didn't know how to control. He wished someone back then had told him to go back home, to fix things before it was too late. But no one did. And by the time he realized what he had lost, the door was already closed. As Hania leaned her head on his arm, something inside him shifted. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like running. He felt the urge to protect, to stay, to make sure this little girl didn't face the same abandonment his daughter once had. He pulled out his phone and made several calls, to the police, to child services, to anyone who could help locate her mother. Hours passed. Night fell. Lantern-like fireflies floated around them as the city lights flickered below the hill. Finally, a call came. Her mother had been found, injured, unconscious, but alive, after an accident that left her stranded far from home. She was stable and waking up. The biker felt his chest loosen with relief. Hania's eyes widened when he told her, and she burst into tears, not of fear this time, but overwhelming relief. She hugged him tightly, thanking him over and over, her little voice trembling with gratitude. As they rode to the hospital under the star-studded sky, Zion felt something wash over him, a quiet redemption he never expected. He realized he couldn't change his past, but maybe helping this little girl was a small way to make peace with the men he used to be. And when Hania ran into her mother's recovering arms, both crying and holding each other like the world could break and they would still stay together, Zion stepped back, letting them have their moment. But Hania rushed back to him, hugged him again, and said he brought back her hope. He walked out of the hospital with a softened heart and tears hidden behind his helmet. For the first time in years, he felt like maybe he could call his own daughter, maybe he still had a chance to fix at least one part of his story. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more people who need hope. Speech balloon special request. Comment, hope, if this story made you emotional.